You're
everyone
getting,
gonna see my gooch whenever I get into
yeah.
position?
We're getting okay. I think we're up now. People got to see a live action cam of Chase sitting
Hell yeah.
down in real
Some
time.
POV.
Yeah, POV functional fitness work. Yeah, so this I think I may have to change this because in the thumbnail and then in this I put the Mark Ripito weekly fan club meeting, and it's not
Yeah.
it's sometimes bi-weekly, sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's bi-weekly.
Yeah,
We got
just
to
keep
figure.
people on their toes, man.
We
Fuck
got to
it.
keep, yeah. Be like, we want you to expect the Mark Ripito fan club every week, but be disappointed if it doesn't come out. I think that's the goal.
Mhm.
Um, so I had some interesting client consults recently, and this I suppose was because I think what we should be doing now over the next few episodes is doing program reviews, or at least kind of breakdowns of programs.
Mhm.
We may end up getting into kind of the template area of being like, look at this fucking stupid template. Here's how you can make it better. But they'll just turn into programming shows. But kind of the big ones we want to do are like Texas Method, 531, how to run a good 4-day split, how to run a compressed program, things like that. So I've been talking to a lot of people recently, and then it'll be like, I've been trying this template for a year. I can't figure out how to get it to work. I have that sunk cost of $50 of investment. What am I supposed to do with my life? So I think that's a good place to start. I'm here with your boy Chase Lindley. How's it going, Chase?
Doing good. How are you?
Uh, See, we were talking about this before, and I can't have dead air for 30 seconds as I think about it.
All right. Well, here I'll actually try it and give you a brief
Okay.
recap. No, I mean so I'm here in Oklahoma City. I am the head coach here, and we are up and running with almost 2 gyms. So our second location is going to be in Quail Springs. That will be opening up probably late April. But our current location right now is kind of technically bordering on the more OKC kind of district there.
Mm-hmm.
We're South OKC, so we're doing good there. We're picking up with some memberships, and I was kind of talking with Alex about how right now it's a little bit stagnant, but we're kind of just scratching our heads right now with coming up with ideas. So we got some cool little like mini camps going on. Like it's not anything through starting strength, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just through our own gym. So if anyone's
Just
in the
get the
area,
gyms moving. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Is Ray? Has he come out to your gym? Have you hung out with
he's
Gillenwater
visited.
recently?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
mean, he was. It's not like, hey, let's go eat somewhere. It was just like he came and saw it, and he's like, all right, I gotta go head back to Wichita Falls.
Gotcha. They've been putting out some very sleek videos. I've been liking it a lot.
Yeah.
The
Well,
camera work's good.
they hired a guy. His name is John Conti, who's a photographer. He's pretty damn good.
I know. Yeah, the production value and quality, I feel
Yeah.
like, has been really good. Did you watch Nick's hip drive video that came out?
Yes, I loved it.
What are your thoughts about it?
Loved it. It was great.
Okay.
I love hearing Nick talk. Like it's I know it sounds creeperish, but that dude can. Him and Mark are fucking great at just
They're eloquent. Yeah.
just thinking and not really chewing over their words, but just spitting it out into an eloquent sentence. And
Hmm.
if it doesn't make sense, they can always reform it into something that makes sense. And I'd love hearing them talk and just how knowledgeable they are about their subjects.
Hmm. Yeah, I appreciated that video a good bit because
Mhm.
I think a lot of these concepts is that once you kind of understand it, or it's an intuitive part of your understanding of the movement in your own training or with other people's training, you completely take it for granted.
Yeah.
But as you work with newer people, and then if they've learned other things, and then you're trying to explain to them the concept of hip drive, and it's just the most. It's apples and oranges. It's like you're speaking a totally different
Oh
language.
yeah.
So a lot of people rely on once you get them to physically do it. You have your hands on the person, you get them to feel it, and they're like, oh, okay, I can just replicate that feeling. But the academic understanding is really important. I think
Mhm.
Nick did a good job of laying all that out. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
more videos like that would be great. Particularly the deadlift setup could use a lot. Yeah, you
Mhm.
should make those videos, Chase. You got to get the
I'm
short
thinking
shorts back
about
out,
doing like
get the tank top on.
I want to do like some more Olympic stuff, but like I don't know what to kind of talk about, like whether it be from like programming or
Mm,
I don't know because filmmakers is really fucking good about pumping out a bunch of Olympic content, and I don't
right.
want to just like piggyback off of him and just be like, yeah, so we're
I
going to
don't
talk
have
about
a
the lat
good filming
position.
location, but I have a lot of good ideas for you.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I think they're good, which means they're probably bad. They're probably shit. But I'll try to shill you on those videos. You and Phoebe can hammer it
Hmm.
out.
Nice.
But yes, okay, all right, cool. It's the Mark Ripito weekly fan club meeting. That's Chase Lindley. I'm Alex Kosari. These Chase. Have you posted anything as of late?
No, dude, I am slacking hard on the Instagram.
Okay. I've been slacking hard. At one point I was like, I should really just deposit a place for movie reviews because I watch a lot of movies and I'm like, man, I
Mhm.
want to fucking talk about this. And I was like, I have a big Google document going of movie reviews. And I was like, I should put these on my
So it's
website.
just you reviewing it, and it's like your split personalities coming in, and
No, it's me clarifying my own thoughts
oh, okay.
is what it is. Yes.
I like the split personality coming in, being like angry Alex is like, no, fucking
Ugh,
yeah.
that
Scanners was
could
a terrible movie.
that could be it. Yeah, but stay tuned. I'll let you guys know if movie reviews drop on the website. And if you want to get videos on, toss them into support of Strength Club. We have a few videos today. Um, the ones that I picked are progress reports. We have one new guy, so new guys are always good to see. He's brand spanking new, and the other ones are some progress reports from people who we've been helping out over the past few weeks. So that'll be cool to see. But we're talking Texas method today. This is gonna be very very texty. So Chase, if you had to distill the origin of the Texas method, if you had to, I don't want to say elevator pitch, but you got, oh, hey, how's it going, MJ? MJDC, how's it going? If you had to give us a minute and a half soundbite, this is your debate stage time on the Texas method, what would it be?
Like giving like a brief synopsis of it, or just like,
It can
or
be an elevator pitch style, or it could be a very literal origin story. Whichever direction you want to take, it's
okay.
fine.
Well, I'll just kind of break it like this. So, if you are a younger athlete, either male or female, but really preferably male, someone who doesn't have a lot of time on their hands, can spend a lot of time in the gym, doesn't really have a serious job, maybe like a part-time job, not a career. This is kind of the program for you, right? And the reason why I say that is that there's a lot of stress with this. There is um, a lot of time spent in the gym, all the shit that we've kind of thought about whenever we were going into this at the start of like, yeah, I'm going to be here for a long time in the gym. I
Hmm.
want to make my bed here, and I'm just going to get
Right.
down to work. And this is the Texas method.
Okay. I like that. I remember. Oh, so we got Silverhand in the chat, by the way. Silverhand, please let us know how you picked your name. If it was an unfortunate silver smelting accident or if it's some sort of reference to something, that would be good to know. Um, yeah, I remember there was a kid who was like 2 or 3 grades above me who
Hmm.
became a bodybuilder. And then when I was a freshman in college, I messaged him on Facebook and I was like, bro, hook me up with the hardest shit you got. And
Yes.
I was like, I don't care how long it takes. I'll spend. I literally remember telling him I'll spend as much time in the gym as it possibly
Yeah.
takes.
Yeah.
And then he gave me this like very stock standard kind of bro split. Like, here's a hypertrophy day, here's a strength day, upper lower, all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
And it took a fucking forever.
Oh yeah. I bet.
um, but I had no concept of form, what diet should have been like, anything.
Hmm.
It was a mess. But I do remember saying I will spend as much time as it possibly takes
Yeah.
because I thought that was the limiting factor. Time is very rarely, I think, the limiting factor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, so the Texas method, it is a 3-day-a-week lifting program. I believe originally penned by Glenn Penley, correct?
I'm not
Or
for
is it
certain on that. It may
okay?
be either. I don't think it may have been Star actually,
Or
because I
is
know
it Bill
Star did.
Starr? I always mix those up in my head.
It's either Star or one of the guys. I doubt it was.
So cursory Google search is saying Penley.
I don't know. I don't know
Hmm.
for certain.
Yeah. So we can't pin that down. But basically, as of now, oh, here we go. Cilimbrador from Middle Earth, kinda. My reading of the Silmarillion was cursory and in early high school, so I got to brush up. Chase, did you read the Lord of the Rings books in the Silmarillion
I have them over here in my little shelves here. I haven't read them yet.
in the bookshelves? You got to go
Mhm.
Silmarillion first, and none of it's gonna make sense, and then do the books.
That's what I heard. Because like I heard like the Silmarillion is just like a long-winded explanation of shit, right? Or
It's like a mythic creation. It's a more like a
gotcha.
creation myth for the universe. It's not super organized.
So I should read
Um,
those before the actual like Hobbit series, and
Yes,
then
if you're really hardcore, Silverhand, if you agree, if you're really hardcore, you'll go Silmarillion
fuck it.
first
All
and then
right,
the
man.
rest of the books. You'll be like, Phoebe, I need 6 hours a week to read Lord of the Rings for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll see you in a few months. But yeah, so it's a 3-day week lifting method that now it is very tightly associated with starting strength. It may in its origin not have been super tightly associated with starting strength, but it's with kind of the Penlay, Star, Rip crowd. Please, we'll say our Hail Marys for not knowing the exact origin story later. But functionally, the scheme of it is on the first day you're getting volume on the A workout. It's a big dose of volume. That's the beginning of the week. The end of the week, you have your C workout. That's a lot of intensity. And then there's some sort of moderate workout in the middle, the B workout, to kind of bridge the gap, but still continue to provide some sort of stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the big thing is that there's going to be or some big things to note. We're going to have alternating upper, as it's written originally, alternating upper body movements. So if you're just like the NLP, you're going bench, press, bench, press, bench, press. So we are alternating. We'll talk about how efficacious that is in terms of programming a little bit later on. But we'll just assume that's what it is for now. And then going on to the rest of the assumptions for the Texas method, it is going to assume that you have high recovery resources like Chase was saying. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So if you are like, hey, I'm 170 pounds and I would lean down to 150, probably not a great idea for you. Your training response will not be as robust in a severe deficit. It's assuming that you kind of have a smooth or a robust training response. If your bench stalled out at 145 on your LP, probably not great for you. If you had a long run of good training response with volume targets in the NLP, so 9-ish sets of squats a week, 3-ish sets of deadlifts, 9-ish sets of upper body. If that worked for you in the NLP, the Texas method volume targets will probably work pretty well with you. And then you have a longer volume or a longer window for detraining. So if you take like a workout off and then the next workout, you need like a 50% reduction because you're like, whoa, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Texas method probably isn't for you because remember, we have the A day and the C day, which is our bulk stimulus, and then the B day in the middle. You may not be touching all three of the lifts, kind of depending on who you are. So if you detrain super quickly, I wouldn't recommend it. If you have that longer detraining window, it'll probably work out well for you. It's also going to assume that you are off ramping of the NLP. Okay, so novice linear progression from starting strength, if you're not super familiar, it's going to be around 9 sets of squats a week, 3 sets of deadlifts a week, 9 sets of upper body plus chin up volume. It's assuming you're coming out of that environment, and then, or you have similar volume targets. So if you're an intermediate lifter who's already doing 15 or 16 sets of squat or squat related work a week, and then you try to do Texas method and you pull it down to like 6 or 7 sets, it's going to be crazy. It's probably not going to work. So we're going to assume that you have similar volume targets on the front end. Anything else I'm missing here, Chase, do you think?
No, that's really it. So that, like, going back to what I was saying, like, you can kind of see, like, this is the descriptions of like a younger athlete or someone who's had a very good response to the novice linear program. So like a genetic freak of some sort. Like you're not going to put like your grandmother on this. You're not going to put anyone basically over 40 on this. Now that doesn't mean like people over 40 can't handle a lot of volume, but this is a shit ton of volume at a high percentage of intensity. I think it's like, man, like the 5x5 day, it may be like 85% of like
So
your,
some places it's written it's 90, some places it's 80.
yeah. So that's a shit ton of
yeah.
of intensity for your volume.
So some other assumptions that I should put in here, it kind of assumes that you know what a rough peaked 5RM is, even that you kind of have a gauge on that. And then I don't know necessarily. I think most normal human beings can do some version of the Texas method. Depending on where you're looking at it, it may say like you got to do 5x5 at 90% of your 5RM. But the state troopers from Texas are not going to, pony up to you if you do 80 or 85% or something to that effect. We'll talk about that wiggle room a little bit later on. I think with programming, similar to the NLP, there's kind of a spirit of the thing, which identifies the thing. And even if there's tiny adjustments to it, it can still be the thing, right? We don't need an infinite amount of terms for each of these. I think I forget, is it the Nebraska method that's in practical programming? There's another one that's like just a different state. And it's just more
I
Olympic
think
lifting.
so.
Is it Nebraska?
It's something like that. Yeah.
Okay. It's one of those states up there. But yeah, so these are kind of the assumptions and the basic layout of Texas method. We're going to switch to this view. Can you see this all right, Chase?
Yep.
Sick. All right, so we're going to run through what a basic layout for Texas method looks like. BP is bench press, PR is press, squats and deadlifts are squats and deadlifts. The volume targets are pretty self-explanatory here. On the A workout, beginning of the week, a 5x5 on squats, a 5x5 on your upper body movement that you are alternating every week, and then a deadlift set. That's a 5. On the B workout, it's 2x5 at a relative offset, a 3x5 of a pressing movement at a relative offset, and then some amount of back work. So, I think in some of the versions of practical programming, some of the articles, like the original T Nation article, other things that Rip has kind of sprinkled across the internet over time, this will say, chin ups, glute ham raises, back extensions. I know,
Yeah.
Everyone's stance on that develops over time. But like if someone just looks up text method, they may stumble across something that says something like this.
Mhm.
So is that about right for the B workout, Chase?
Yeah. I think it may is no, you're right, because I was whenever you were talking about it, I was kind of thinking about the program in my head, and I think you're right about like on the workout for C, you have your top one set of 5 usually for your squat. So you're
Mm-hmm.
hitting a 5 rep max. Same thing with your upper body, and then it's usually like a power clean or power snatch at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the way that I've kind of programmed it in the past is like I'll move like that light pull to like the
The
workout
C
B.
on
Yeah,
C.
exactly. And just kind of switch like the chins and the light pull
Okay.
for workout B and C. But
So
again,
you'll
like
go you go deadlift, light pull, chins.
yeah. And I've
Okay.
also done it the other way too, where like deadlifts also in the middle, chins are on
Mm-hmm.
like the workout A. It's just however you want to put it. But again, like the main gist is that you have a shit ton of volume on one of the days, you have a lighter day, and then you have a high intensity day with the last day.
Okay, so yes, that's the foreshadowing for all of the jazzy programming stuff.
Hmm.
Chase should have put spoiler warnings in front of that,
Shit, I'm
man.
sorry.
You're doing like Honda Civic level spoilers, driving around town with your lowered Civic. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of the general. If you were to see as written, of course, it's not written in stone, but if you sprinkle this across the internet, it'll probably be something that approximates this.
Hmm.
Now, if you notice on the C workout, it's going to say, one set of 1 to 5 rep max. In practical programming, they recommend if you can ideally aim at a 5, great. Once the 5 stops working, you start kind of cycling those targets around. Some people, including myself, we like to cycle those targets earlier. Chase probably
Hmm.
likes to cycle those targets earlier as well.
Hmm.
Typically, it's in the 1 to 5 range, but we'll talk about what kind of jazz you can do with that later at the end. And then light pulling volume. So it's going to go not much volume on the squat, not much volume on the bench, and then light pull. And then that light pull does have a good bit of volume to it. That can be 5 or
Yep.
6 sets of triples or doubles or something like that. Um, and we're back. So what is the Texas method need? Chase, skim over those points, and then which one of those do you think is your favorite?
So we got long rest. Yes, for sure. For example, whenever I was running it way back in the day, before someone told me like I could switch like the intensity upper body to like the volume squat day. So essentially, you just did a 5x5 with a squat, and then you just did, or you're going into another 5x5 with the upper body. I
Mm-hmm.
was there for 2 hours at least just on 2 exercises.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm taking an hour per exercise trying
Mm-hmm.
to get this shit done. And then I still have a pull of some sort to do after that. So
Mm-hmm.
rest times, yeah, I was spending at least like 8 or 10 minutes on those 5x5 days. It's fucking gruesome. Weight gain for sure. This will make you. I mean, just the amount of stress that you're getting throughout the week. It's astronomical almost. You're going to be sleeping a shit ton. You're going to be eating a shit ton. And again, like this goes back to like what we said prior. Like this is for someone who is a younger athlete who can commit a lot of time in the gym and then eat a bunch.
Yeah.
For the good loading calls, yes, especially for the intensity day. So I was kind of stupid and I just kind of kept grinding a set of 5. And if I failed, I'd knock it back down at like 10 pounds and then ramp it up again.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're kind of like in that scenario, if you were running this, yeah, kind of like what me and Alex were saying earlier, that's where you go back to like cycling, maybe like a set of 5 one week, 2 triples the next, and a few singles the other week. But response to intensity, this is individual.
Do you think it's important for this?
I would say so, especially the intensity in regard to the volume. So if you are a person who can handle high intensity on your volume day, just watch out for that because you may have to take a little bit more time with recovery, watch
Mhm.
what you're eating and sleeping and stuff like that going into the last session of the week. For example, like the C workout where you're doing the intensity day. What I usually did was I would just kind of dial back on the lower end of the intensity spectrum on my volume. So I'm hitting 80%. I even done like 75%. It's
That's great.
still, yeah,
Okay,
it's
that's a very good
still
point to bring up.
still very stressful again because you're just doing
Mhm.
25 reps at something. And I was good to go by the end of the week.
Yeah. So the response to intensity, that's the one I think. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of combined with good loading calls. We'll talk more about
Hmm.
that once we get into kind of the jazzy parts of programming. Long rests, absolutely for sure. I think there's a huge spectrum. Some people will just, some lazier people, they'll just automatically drift towards 6 minute rests, even when it's easy. And there are
Yeah.
other people who are just like, I got to go, go, go. And
Hmm.
then they'll be at the end of their LP and you'll talk to them and they'll be like, well, I take about a minute, minute and a half rests, you know?
Yeah, there's like really
Um,
no in between. Like it's
yeah, there's
either people
no
stay
one's
there all
ever
fucking day or they don't.
exactly, yeah. It's very rare for people to land in a what we would consider normally recommended in like a
Hmm.
3.5, 4 minute rest period.
Hmm.
Weight gain, if you're doing this in a deficit, I don't have any. So if someone puts their glasses on and asks me for a source, I wouldn't have one. But I would say people seem they have a less robust training response in a deficit, particularly if it is on like a relatively lower volume, more intensity driven
Hmm.
program. Um, so in terms of the how can you if how to help the Texas with the long part, or let's say increase your chances of success, I'd say it's gonna be time management. I have some
Hmm.
college kids. I unironically recommend it's like bring your laptop with you, Jim. If you're sitting there for 3 minutes, answer a fucking email, look at something,
Yeah.
bring a book with you. It's not the end of the world. Make sure your diet and sleep is there. The two things, the more important ones I would say are honest self accounting. Like if you let's say if you're doing your 5 rep squat on C and then rep 5 is a little high, not advisable to increase the next time, right? If you
Hmm.
have technical faults, you got to fix them. And then that's good for you, frankly, because it will not only fix the lift, but it will kind of extend your timeline or protract your timeline. And so, honest self accounting about how you're doing, what your bar speed looking like, how you're actually feeling, those will help you make good loading calls. Um, and then I very rarely recommend a lot of intensity based programming for people who don't have good technique near 100%.
Hmm.
If you have like some wombats who just fall apart as soon as it gets close to failure, you may not be able to change that in a short period of time. That may be an athletic process for them that takes 2 years. Um, but what you can do is pull the volume or pull the intensity back a little bit, give them a little bit more volume so they're working just on their threshold of competency. That's what you want to do. The threshold of competency is where you want to live. So if you're someone who's, you'll notice that like you get really in your head near a deadlift PR and then you just kind of freak out and your back extension goes to hell because it's a mental game for you. Pulling near 100% for your pulls probably isn't a good idea. You'll have to get there over time, but
Hmm.
it's a slow process. If it would be a fast process, that would mean you're a good athlete, and that doesn't happen to good athletes.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah. So if you're having those problems, it means those problems are probably going to be they're there for a reason, and it
Hmm.
may take a bit of time. Anything else you would add here, Chase?
Man, I think those first two are really important, but mm, I would say like also look at your schedule too. So like look at the external stresses that you're getting. Again, this kind of goes for any program, but like again, if you're running this and you're a guy in college or something like that, and then you have practice the other day. So if I'm doing the first A workout with a bunch of volume, I know I'm going to be beat the shit on Tuesday. So I don't want to go
Hmm.
do another running exercise or whatever the hell I need to do in my off season program. So I may switch it around to where I'm accommodating the external stress that I'm getting throughout my week.
Yeah. So yeah,
Stuff
and
like
that's
that.
that's another thing. So yeah, if you're kind of if you're a younger guy who's like I just want maximum results, no matter what,
Hmm.
and then it's Friday and you do your intensity workout and it's Friday night and you dick around because it's Friday night and you have
Yeah.
pizza, you don't get enough protein, you stay up late playing video games or partying if you're a socialite,
Yep.
not good for you. Um, I would say even try to stagger it so you're just kind of avoiding those problem days. Monday and Friday tend to be problem days for people.
Hmm.
So lifting on those days, it's rough. The next slide is kind of where we're really going to get into it. This is the questions and the talking and debating slide. I think the "is it for you" thing we've covered. That will be a little bit. We may wrap up with that question as well.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
going to run.
it's also been kind of beat to death too, with like from what Rip and Nick and all that stuff has said. But yeah, we'll kind of circle back to it, I
I
guess.
think I honestly, I disagree with that. I disagree with all the take that it's should be fairly exclusive. Um, but then it goes back to that thing of when you're changing some of the points in Texas method, how much of the Texas method is it still?
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
um, so if you're doing it tried and true, most of your sets, most of your weeks will be near failure. And if you're doing near failure training most of the time, it's really stressful. So you want to have a not super stressful life.
Hmm.
So I just think I really like the layout of Texas Method. I kind of organize the shots, the shot calling a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Um, and it makes it more palatable. So you can have someone who's can get it done in 75 minutes and they'll be totally fine. Um, so I would say let's talk about this one, Chase. How to pick and cycle your PRs on the C workout.
Hmm.
Um, I like to cycle them preemptively and kind of use that as a way to waive stress. So if you have someone who gets through a week really well, if their A and their B workouts, they look really fresh and really clean. I know that on the C workout, we can pick a more lofty or aggressive target for the C PR.
Hmm.
And when you have a high week, you can expect the next week to be a little bit lower, right? In terms
Yep.
of just general performance, everything, mood, libido, appetite, all these things kind of wave up and down. So you kind of have to be aware of when you're on the upslope, when you're on the high, when you're on the way down, and that's kind of that self-accounting thing I was talking about. So preemptively picking, it's like I can tell this week isn't going super great. I'm going to take a triple with a slight. So let's say you're squatting. We'll do 315 because that's it's an arbitrary thing everybody super
Hmm.
super likes. You've squatted 315 for a 5 RM. You know what you probably can do, but you can tell that next week is going to be stressful. Take out 325 for a triple. It's
Yep.
going to be an increased weight. You're handling something heavy. It feels heavier on your back. That's great. But then you're still having a set that you have maybe 1 or 2 reps left in the tank. So you're not killing yourself as much, but you're still getting a good dunk on the board. I like to do that. And then you can tell, like, let's say if you have a down week and a down week, and the next time you do that for a double or for another triple, you're due for another up week on the upswing soon. And then you can go back to something a little bit harder.
Hmm.
Um, and then you can also do this with kind of increasing reps as well. If you can tell someone needs a little bit more work, you can even budge that to a set of 6, 2 sets of 5, something to that extent. How do you like to pick and cycle your PRs on the C workout, Chase?
Generally, like if someone is, let's just say, like doing a set of 5 for about 3 weeks, what I've kind of seen in my own training and then several other people is like at that time it's time to change it up, because again, that 3 week period of you just
It's
ramping up fives and
successful,
stuff like
right?
that.
So it's success,
Exactly.
success, success. Okay.
Exactly. At that point, like I just have this. I can see like the bar speed maybe be slowing down on like the fourth and fifth reps, and it's getting
Hmm.
gradually slower per week. I'm just going to go ahead and change it. So generally, about 3 weeks of you sticking to whether it be triples, singles, or fives, I like to change it after that to where now instead of doing 3 weeks of specific rep goal, it's now we're going to go like maybe a bi-weekly of you're going to hit a set of 5 1 week and then triples there. So that way, we're slowly introducing a little bit of a different PR cycle. And then once that kind of draws out a little bit, maybe get like maybe 6 weeks on that little like bi-weekly, or not bi-weekly, but 2 week PR cycle.
Every other
We'll
week.
start. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now that we have to kind of break up the stress a little bit more, or we add that third week of the total program of doing singles or something like that.
Okay. One thing that it's in the subtext of what Chase is doing there is ways to avoid detraining, because
Yep.
detraining is a real concern with a more protracted timeline like this. You want to keep session volume kind of samey. So, if you were going, let's say if you did a set of 5 and then you take it down to a single the next time you hit it, that next volume day may not go so well because you didn't do enough squatting in the interim, right?
Hmm.
So maybe instead of that set of 5, you hit 2 triples at a slightly higher weight. Your session volume is basically exactly the same, 5 and 6 reps, and then that will allow you to have not, quote unquote, detrained by the time that your next volume day comes around. So that's very important. You basically want to think of the way I would say C. You want it to be a slam dunk. I don't know how often you get it to be risky on the C workout where it's like you may make this, you may not make it.
I like to still push people. I just like it for the mental training that they're getting. I'm gonna at least do that every 3 weeks, maybe
Yeah,
even twice a week.
yeah. What do you mean twice a week?
Not twice a week, every 2 weeks. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
twice a week. That'd be
I was like, wait a second.
fuck them.
Yeah, so it should be something where it's like you want to be confident about it, and this is the blessing of in-person work is that Chase is watching the
Hmm.
warm-ups, he's watching the movement quality, the
Yep.
mood, all of those things, so he can tell if this shot is going to make it or not.
Hmm.
You know, so like you want it to be right. We were talking about before that kind of you want to be on the edge of competency, the border of where that
Hmm.
competency lies, kind of the strength. That's where you want to pick your shots for C. Um, the next thing, and Chase did some foreshadowing with this earlier on. It's talking about when you should and should not increase load on the A workout. Do you
Yeah,
remember talking about this, Chase?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so you were talking about how sometimes you would do 80%, 85,
Oh yeah,
75%,
yeah, yeah.
95
Yep.
on that A
Yep.
workout. How are you making those decisions?
Just going off of how I feel. So if if I'm hitting that C workout on Friday and then over the weekend I'm doing everything right with recovery, but I still kind of feel like shit going into the workout, I'm gonna have to lower the intensity a little bit. So that way I'm kind of if we kind of look at it like if we're looking at like a peak and valley here, I'm slowly going down into the valley. And I've been there over the weekend and I'm slowly trying to get back up to where
Hmm.
I can recover. I'm going to do something to my capability of recovery is successful. So now I am diminishing the intensity for the volume, maybe going on the lighter side of the spectrum here with like 75%, 80%, whatever best works for you. And then I'm kind of using that day, yes, as a stressor, but not as much of a stressor that I've had in the past, so that I'm still able to recover. And then I go into session B, it being a light day, and now I'm ready to go on session C.
Yeah, so that's so the when Chase was talking about kind of the like you're on the downswing of the wave, you're in the
Hmm.
valley. You don't want to dig too deep of a hole for yourself
No.
because like when Chase is an athlete can tell he's like I'm already feeling a little beat I'm a little beat up and I have this thing I need to do. If he were to make that call to kind of push it to 90, and that may be another 45, 60 pounds on the bar, it may be an appreciable amount. If he
Hmm.
does that, he may, push himself deeper into that fatigue hole and he may not pull out of it by Friday. Right. So it's about kind of accurately applying that dose of training to make sure that you can still get it together when you need to get it together. Because like let's say if you have an athlete who's like kind of like their max 5 RM is like 405 ish, but then their volume day on the Texas method hovers between 335 and then 370, let's say, on the 5x5 day.
Yeah.
The best day of their life, it's 370. On a rough day, it's 325, 335. That may not change. That range may not change if you kind of looked at like a 6 week spread, but their 5 RM on the tail end will keep going up and up and up,
Hmm.
right? Because it's like when they're feeling really good, the volume day may be higher, and when they're feeling not so great, the 5x5 may be lower. But if it's planned correctly and organized correctly, the when you're expressing that performance on the C workout, it'll keep going up and up and up, and that's kind of your confirmation that you're
Yeah.
applying the correct dose of training.
Yeah,
Um,
and kind of like vomit out again what Rip was saying is like we're concerned about weight on the bar going up. Like, yes, it is kind of cool to see like a PR 5x5, but I rather see you actually put more weight on the set of five or the triple, whatever you're doing on the
mhm.
C day, so you actually can then maybe push the range that you're going with on the A day up a little bit higher.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's you want the chronic weight to be going up
Hmm.
and you're okay with kind of giving an inch on a day when you don't feel so great. Right.
Yep.
Because it can fuck up the whole week. So like if you care about the acute decision too much, you can screw up the chronic picture. Right. So like if I know from January to June, little Timmy's 5x5 goes from 275, let's say 245 to 275, average 5x5 to then in June, his average 5x5 is 295 to 335. That's just a win, right? We know
Hmm.
the average spread is there. If you were to say, well, in January, his best 5x5 was 275, and in June, his worst 5x5 was 295. That's only a 20 round spread. That may seem shitty if you want to be shitty about it, right?
Yeah.
but that's not the case. You're comparing best to worst. That's why kind of training timelines are a little bit abstract, because you have to compare good days and bad days, and you have to
Mhm.
kind of compare these averages across time. So when you're choosing what your volume work should be on bench press, on squat, on all of these things, you want it to be within the criteria of, like, I don't want to say relevance, because it's still relevant even if it's like a kill yourself grinder. But you want the reps to be clearly hard. You don't want them to be too fast, because if they're too fast, they're probably too easy. You want them to
Yep.
be decently hard, technically challenging, on that border of the competence, on that border of strength. Um, Anything else you want to talk about for how to choose the load on the A workout?
No, it's just gonna be a lot of experimenting. So like 1 week, try going up a little bit higher with the range. So like if you're going like 80 percent on your first week and that was really easy, don't be afraid to kind of go up to 90. And if that was too much, then you got to go down a little bit and work your way
Hmm.
down a little bit more smartly. But again, kind of to reiterate, just save the day that you're kind of going balls to the wall for the PR, right? You're not trying to
Absolutely.
PR your volume. You're trying to PR the set of five, the triple, whatever you're doing.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's like it doesn't, like, let's say, for example, if your 5 RM is 400 pounds, and
Hmm.
if you're changing, if you're, let's say, if you increase that from 400 to 405, your volume day, if you're using actual percentages, is barely increasing at all.
Yeah.
Right, because it's a percent of a 5 pound increase that it's going up. So it doesn't actually change that much. That's why you can kind of get lost in the fog. It's like you can't see the fog immediately in front of you, but if you were to
Hmm.
zoom out, it's all around you.
Hmm.
So be smart with that. I would say, frankly, these loading calls, this is what Chase and mine's job is primarily. It's like
Yep.
we can get someone up and running with form in 2 hours. Not that hard.
Yeah.
Um, but it's about calling these shots over the long run.
Yep.
So if we go back to this guy real quick, where are we? Boop. So on the B workout, and we can chase. I'm curious about your thoughts. So you said there's a lot of reorganization going on with the back work. So we have a light pull, we
Hmm.
have some back accessories, and some deadlifts. Um, how are you determining that structure? And then what are you choosing for either light pulls or back accessories, things like that?
So I'm looking at the day itself. So if we look at like workout A, a
Okay.
lot of stress again because of the 5x5. And then the last thing I want to do is that I'm feeling gassed. I may have not brought enough food with me at the gym. I may need, I'm kind of low on my blood
Lower
sugar
back
here.
tweaky, anything like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
I'm fucking gassed whenever it comes to the deadlift. I'm not going to do anything stressful in terms of like the pull that day. So I'm going to maybe do a chin. If I feel good enough, I'll do some power cleans of some sort. Just a lighter iteration of the pull versus a deadlift. Now,
Hmm.
what I usually do is then swap the deadlift for workout B because I'm fresh from the 2x5. That should be kind of a warm
Light
up.
warm
It
up.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
exactly, shouldn't be crazy. The bench or the press that you're doing, it may be hard, but again, it's not anything near as stressful as the either set of five that you're going to do on workout C or the 5x5 that you're doing on workout A. So I'm going to plug in the deadlift for this day. So then if we look at it, workout A, let's say, is pretty stressful. Workout B, stressful in the sense of we're pulling heavy, but we're going light with a squat. Upper body, it's fine. You can do a lot of stress there. And then workout C, I don't want to have another heavy day because I'm already focused on the squat and the upper body. So I generally let, like the power clean or even the chins kind of lay in that spectrum.
Yeah, because if you do PR squat, PR bench, and then PR deadlift, you're doing a mock powerlifting meet every
Yeah, and
Friday.
that's rough.
That's pretty rough, dog. Yeah. Um, so, if we were to kind of look at this ABC if we had this, I'm gonna do this so we can kind of see ourselves now. If we were to put this on like a graph of stress application, right? The A workout would be a ton of stress. The B workout would be a moderate amount. Okay, and then the C workout would be higher than B but lower than A, right?
Hmm.
So A and then C, B's here in the middle. What Chase is doing when he's swapping these around is kind of flattening that out.
Hmm.
Okay. So he's taking a little bit off of A, he's putting it into B, but he's not putting so much into B that C is now intolerable because he didn't recover in time. Um, and this is similar to what we're doing when we're determining what PRs are on C and then how you're picking your volume on A, right?
Yeah.
So when we're choosing kind of the back accessories and the light pulls, what we're attempting to do is keep everything fast on that kind of edge or border of competency. Um, Now, the next big thing, a lot of people will talk about, the volume for this for upper body. It's way too low because there may be, and let's refer back to this. Boop, boop. Where are we? Longer detraining window. This is rather important with bench and overhead press.
Hmm.
So if we go to this and we have should you alternate your uppers, at some point theoretically, 1 week you're benching twice and pressing once, then the next week you're pressing twice and benching once. For
Hmm.
me, I know if I do that, the next time I go to bench, I'll be like, "Oh god, this feels so heavy. Jesus Christ." It may be moving just as fast, but it'll be really hard, because
Yeah.
my bench detrains really quickly. Um, so what are your thoughts on alternating upper body movements and kind of applying upper body volume, Chase?
I think the best way that I think either Nick or Andy Baker kind of figured out, which is like the split Texas method for the upper body. Um, so like, let's say workout A, you're doing like a bench volume with the 5x5. Workout B, you're doing a press 5x5, and then on the final day with C, you're hitting both the press and the bench. With respect to like you're doing singles for the press, you're doing a set of 5 for the bench, whatever you need to do. But Alex is right with you need to have a higher percentage of stress with the upper body because of just the muscle mass. The movements in general are a lot different compared to the lower body stuff. So you're not getting as near
Hmm.
as much stress comparatively with regards to the upper body end versus the lower body.
Yeah, like I think the squat and the deadlift have much more kind of carryover and transfer to each other
Hmm.
bi-directionally than the press and the bench do. I know the bench will drive up the press almost 100% of the time. The squat and the deadlift, they help each other out. I don't
Yeah.
think the overhead press helps the bench tremendously. If some guy is doing 2 pressing sessions and 1 benching session in that week, and then he adds, let's say, 3 pounds to his press PR, right? That does not in any way guarantee to me that he's going to make his next bench jump,
Hmm.
right? But I know, let's say, if I have 2 pulling slots and 2 squatting slots, and all of those went well, the next week they should continue to go fairly well. Um, so I think that the stock standards Texas method of just that kind of one upper body slot, it's a little bit slim on volume.
Yeah. Doesn't
Um, so
doesn't
adding
really pan out.
in, yes, yeah, and then kind of what ends up happening, I've noticed, is that the week is front loaded in stress in terms of upper body. So if you kind of run what Chase was just talking about, the bench 5x5 is going to be the highest stress. The press 5x5 will be a little bit lower. If you just did a press 5x5 on its own, it wouldn't be as hard, but your triceps and shoulders are still fatigued from benching,
Hmm.
right? Because it's only 48 hours away. So press, it's a little bit less stressful. And then you come into the C day and it's just all intensity. It's relatively low volume. And then you're doing both of them and it kind of flattens out. So it's like A, B, and then C slightly lower than that. And it's
Hmm.
enough that you can kind of recover and swing back by the time you come to Monday. Um, so it's a front loaded week and then it's slanting down in terms of stress over time. I really like that scheme. I try to front load my weeks as much as I can, or at least kind of flip it. So if you're backloading your week with lower body work, because we're saying the hardest shit will be done on C
Yep.
for squat, we're backloading the lower body. We should front load the upper body, right? So that we end up not killing ourselves by having a
Hmm.
front loaded on both sides. Hopefully that was clear to everybody. Adding upper body volume. I'm a big fan of it. Everybody's got to be adding more upper body in. Got to get bigger breasticles. Um,
I think not only
s-
that, but like especially for the press. So if someone is struggling with the technical aspect of it, what do we have to do? More reps at it. So
yeah.
let's say if you're struggling and you're only hitting one basically day of pressing on the kind of like the alternate of the upper body scheme for the Texan method, it's not enough. You need to have more days of pressing.
Yes. Yeah. You need to have more days pressing, and I think one of the big things is that you should realize that pressing is not super stressful for most
No.
humans. If you have a history of shoulder injury and neck injury, pressing can be kind of rough, right? Most people, it's just weakness and atrophy. It's not like they've been hit, with a baseball bat or a car in the shoulder.
Hmm.
Um, Pressing should be mostly it's going to be your lightest and least stressful lift. A lot of times, chins, if you're doing if aggressive chinning volume, can be way more stressful than the press.
Yep.
Um, because that back fatigue, it's a big muscle area, and it's also getting touched by the deadlift as well. The deadlift is more stressful than the benches comparatively,
The grip
or if we were to
fatigue
compare the
too.
two. Yeah.
The grip fatigue too.
Because it's impacting everything, right? So if
Yep.
you're putting the plates on your squat and you're like, damn, my grip's really fatigued, you're not going to be as confident going in the squats. Um, so adding in the upper body volume, you can generally add in some pressing, and like it's helping the delts come along, it's helping the triceps come along,
Yeah.
even if there's not that PR, and that's going to help your bench come along, which is going to help the press come along, and so on and so forth. Um, Now let's say the one thing, we got about 15 minutes left. We'll knock out this question. We'll go back to the first one. Is it for you? Lower body volume. Have you ever added lower body volume into the C workout at all, or do you keep it tender generally to kind of one to three hard sets?
Usually 1 to 3, and again, that's a little bit of individual.
Yeah.
Like I'm the type of person that I can handle a little bit of a higher intensity, so I'm not going to kill myself anymore with in terms of stress with adding, maybe like another pulling day that's not like like let's say like a 2 by 5 deadlift on that day, so it's a lighter version of the deadlift or adding more volume to it.
Hmm.
I wouldn't do that. Now it may work for certain people though. Someone who is not technically sound or someone who can't really push that hard of an intensity,
Yep.
I'm going to put a little bit more volume on C.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So it's like we were saying before, where is it? Pristine technique near 100%. If you have someone who can't really access that area, um, of intensity or that level of push, or individual effort, or even effort on the day, if they had a hard Friday at work and then they don't want to go balls to the wall, teeth grinding, like three hour max,
Hmm.
do two more sets of three and just pull it down to whatever that person can tolerate on the day, whatever you can tolerate. That's totally fine.
Hmm.
The adding lower body volume, it should be a card saved for that higher intensity threshold is unavailable for XYZ reason. And it can be for, valid reasons depending on who the person is. So that's why I would say, you want to get away with as much as you can get away with without screwing up the what's it called, the volume day. Because if,
Yep.
let's say, if you're kind of chronically adding in volume to that last workout and you're noticing that the trend on your A workout is going down and down and down, you know what you've done wrong, right? Because then you're putting two volume days only 2 days apart, and you're just fucking around and doing nothing in the middle of the week because you're
Hmm.
going like hard A, hard C, nothing in B. You know, one of the reasons why, when it's explained, like we want to say intensity and volume are different stimulus. It's because that intensity is relatively more recoverable, so we can separate them by a restful weekend, right? Whereas that volume gets 3 days before the next exposure.
Yep.
So like on people who have had huge scheduling liberties, I've even done, how would I describe this best? So it would be like volume day, moderate B, intensity day with a little bit of volume, and then I would do another moderate day after that, and then a volume day. So it's like, adding in an intermediate day in the middle. It would go like A, B, C, B, A, B, C, B, A, so on and so forth. Um, so liberty for that. Um, you know, I would say if you're using all of these things smart, most people can get away with Texas method. But one thing I will say is that, let's say, you started lifting, you've done your LP for 4 or 5 months. How long, if this person starts or transitions into Texas method, how long do you think that should last for them? Or for, let's say, for the average Joe Chiz?
Someone running a Texas method, man. Oh,
Let's say
maybe
with all of the kindness and generosity that we've described in this show.
I'd say maybe um, the the better part of a year, maybe 9 months if you're lucky.
Hmm.
It's just again, I mean, you just got to have your recovery on point. You got to make sure that you are looking at the variables and you are very tedious about controlling your volume and your intensity and making sure that you're getting adequate amounts too on your upper. So, man, yeah, I want to say about like 8 months or so.
Yeah. So now this is super important, everybody. What timeline are we still at? We're barely cresting into a year.
Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee you, everybody sitting in the chat has been fucking around with weights for probably longer than a year.
Oh yeah.
I've been screwing around with weights for, a little bit over a decade. Actually, yeah, about a decade. Chase has been screwing around with weights since he could probably walk and talk.
Yep.
Or really just, what was it, 12 we started? 11? It
12. It was 12.
was 12. I got to remember that. So like a year is still incredibly new.
Hmm.
incredibly new to the activity. So whenever people are considering, it's like, well, how exactly should I approach my intermediate programming? And then they've been lifting for 7 years already, and their volume targets may be a mile above this. You may
Yeah.
be doing way more volume than this. This isn't for you. You can still use the heuristics that we've talked about to decide with your own programming. But you got to consider where you are in terms of the life cycle and kind of maturation of lifting. Like if you just fucked everything up and then you're like, I know how to do the lifts and I'm kind of strong, but I have no good semblance of programming, then definitely revisit it. But if you feel like you have your head on your shoulders, I wouldn't consider like the Texas method like a tool or like a template that you pop out and you're like, I bought this off Instagram, time to do the Texas method.
Yeah.
Um, do you consider it as a program, Chase? Do you consider it an approach? Do you consider it a method? When you classify Texas method in your head, how do you think about it?
What kind of screams to me, and this is just because it's recent, is just like it's someone that is yanking it right out of the book. So they go from, oh shit, I've done the
Mm,
novice linear program. They flip to like one of the first intermediate programs, and that's the Texas method. How you
right.
need a program is you're manipulating variables to where now you are increasing stress through volume, intensity, all the shit that we kind of talked about in previous episodes, to where it morphosizes into maybe the Texas method. So in terms of like how I really want to put it, like a Texas method is an evolution step from the NLP that some people have to go into, some people shouldn't. I don't know. And again, this is my take on it. Is like I deal with a little bit of an older population to where I'm not going to have these guys do this because of again a bunch of external stress, things that they are trying to control with recovery. It's just it's not feasible for them. But someone who's younger, yeah, I can definitely put them on this, and then they'll just fucking be great at it.
They'll flourish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I think we did it. Anything else? Any parting shots on the Texas method? I think you did a good job. Anything else?
Um. Uh. Nah, I don't know. I think it's been kind of beat to death a little bit. I think if
Okay.
well,
I
also like
think we
if
maybe did the best job out of anyone explaining it, Chase.
yeah, because I think like a lot of people just kind of
Definitely at
brush it to
least
the
you.
side and stuff. Like it is a great program. I'm not going to shit on it. It is a great program, but is there better ways of kind of programming yourself and tweaking variables? I think so. I think like if you had like a fourth day and you had like a 4 day split doing a Texas method, I think that is probably the most preferable way of doing it instead of a 3 day. But most people don't have
I
that
think
luxury.
that's probably gonna what I'm doing next because I wanted to talk about it more. When we gotta check these people's videos. Is that
Yeah,
how to program the 4 day split?
yeah.
I'm gonna do some rambling while this goes on as well. Um, Menno Henselmans, he's one of my favorite exercise science researchers, was talking about like the Texas method and what are the problems with it. And he was saying it was like very insufficient deadlifting volume, and how the claim that the Texas method makes is that deadlifting is more stressful than squatting, and then thusly there's less deadlifting volume. But I think it's a contextual thing of the people who are coming from did Texas method in Hawk Garage one summer, and now
Nice.
he pulls 600 pounds. Look at this man. Look at this boy. Um, oh, you're from Texas too. Nice, sick. Um, let's see. We're gonna go back to this. This is Perry, by the way, Chase. Peri. Um,
Very.
I think Menno really missed the mark because it's contextualized around that person's conditioning or fitness level on the jump. So when you're
Hmm.
doing Texas method, you're coming out of the LP. You're used to around 3 deadlift sets a week because that's all you
It's
need.
a shit
You
ton.
know,
Yeah.
um, that's more than enough to get someone's from deadlift from 1 to 400 or 135 to 400 is 3 times a week. That's the 3 sets a week. Excuse me. That's all you need. So when you're contextualizing it, I think in a lot of people's analysis of the Texas method, they're talking about it just like an intermediate athlete who's been training for a long time or an advanced athlete. Would they just kind of plop this template in? And that's not what it's for.
Mhm.
So he was one of the more recent kind of people I've seen poo poo it. And I'm like, I don't know if you kind of understand its intent. Um, have you been watching Perry here?
Yeah.
Okay, thoughts for Perry. This may be workout one, literally.
Yeah. This seems like already it's way too light. So this is kind of like a good example of like a combined center of mass here. So like we see like Perry is a little bit forward,
It's a
and
very good point.
yes, like this bar is like a mile away from the midfoot, and we
Hmm.
know that as it gets heavier, the thing has to be in line with the balance point, because the bar should be comprising most of the
Can you see
mass
me
here.
drawing on the screen, Chase?
No, I mean, I kind of see like your arrow moving around, but I don't see like a
Okay, never
line
mind.
or anything.
All right,
I mean,
I was using a drawing software.
all right. No, I didn't see it, but I mean, again, you can kind of see just like his bar is like literally over his kneecaps instead of back where like the
Yep.
knot of the shoelace would be. This is okay because which one weighs more? Perry does. He's going to win this battle. But I mean, Perry just needs to work out with a little bit more weight so that we can actually see his form digress. Like right now, the biggest thing is just he's a little bit forward. He needs to sit back just a tiny bit, and then the bar.
Think depth is good.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, depth is good. He's pushing the bar up a little bit. He's wearing a metal watch. I do not see this in the gym anymore.
What, a
I don't
watch?
see.
I
He's
didn't
just
even
wearing
see
like
that.
a normal metal watch.
Like the Clarence Kennedy watch.
I don't know what watch Clarence. I'm too
Oh, he
busy
has
looking
like
at his
a
quads and
Harry
pecs.
Potter like fucking Rolex.
Okay, this guy's he's wearing just like a metal chain watch, and I'm like, oh, I don't see those anymore. Young people
Huh.
don't wear those. But yeah, depth is good. I think the hip drive concept. Perry needs to go and watch the hip drive video because these are very chesty reps, and you need to learn that immediately. So this presumably was his first workout. So we would say for his first workout, he should probably end his squat at like 75 to 105 pounds.
Yeah.
45 pounds is definitely way too light. And we'll pause this here for Perry. Hold on. There he is. There's your boy, the third mic of the show, Perry. But all right, and then we got Stu here with another squat. We're gonna check out Stu's squat. You got this, Chase? Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Stu's in the tank top. He has lifting shoes on. Damn.
It's a high bar, man.
He's boinging out of the bottom. You see that
Yeah, he
boing,
is.
Chase?
Yeah, he's a bouncy boy.
He's a bouncy boy.
Man, dude, his ass touched the fucking floor on that. That's pretty impressive.
This is how I squat, Chase. I'm physically incapable of stopping at depth. It's just too loose.
Yeah.
I can't get tight. All right,
Yeah,
we're gonna
so
go back to Stu.
going forward, yeah, like he definitely needs to cut this off.
Mm-hmm.
Play with the bar position a little bit, see if he can't lean over still. But I'm just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, saying his shoulders are fucked up. You still need to lean over more than that. And the reason why I say that is like look how closed his knee angle gets into the bottom. So if he sits back a little bit, he's not going to be as closed in his knee angle, but his angle is going to be a little bit more closed, and he's going to kind of shift back a little bit more in balance here.
Yeah. So we were what Chase was talking about before, combined center of mass. Perry was heavier than the barbell, so when Perry's barbell is out over his knees, it's fine. When Stu is doing it, he's actually getting onto his toes, right? So Stu's balance point or center of pressure on his foot is where his toes are right now. We can see that weight shifting in the shoe. We want that still on the midfoot. That can still happen with a good I-bar squat.
Yep.
So he's falling forward onto his toes every rep, whereas we kind of want that railed over the heels a little bit more. So rep 1, I would say, was the most on midfoot. And then they just start getting more and more toesy every time.
Yeah, I'm curious to see like what he was kind of cueing himself. Like if he was just thinking like, oh, I just need to fucking keep going lower. I don't know.
Still a little bit of hip drive coming out of the bottom just because it has to happen. I mean, I think these were solid and fast. He could put another 15 kilos on this and be fine. But let's say, lean over more, feel your heels doing things, and don't feel like you're sliding onto your toes. One thing I tell people is like, if you feel the landmark of like the calf stretching, if it feels like, anything in that ankle is starting to kind of collapse forward, that's a really good indicator that you're falling onto your toes. All right, so you'll probably recognize this guy, Chase. We'll pop him back on the screen right now. Do you remember this guy?
Yeah.
He's working on it. We got 2 more videos from him.
Oh, nice.
He has a hoodie on this time, so it was slightly colder. That's what we know so far. I think this is a safety bar issue for one, because the safeties are going to prevent him from going lower.
Yeah.
How far off of depth do you think your boy is here?
I'd say about 2 inches or so, because you can kind of tell like it's kind of like what Stu was doing a little bit earlier, where like he's drifting forward into his knees a little bit. So this is the perfect example of the hip drive video that kind of Nick did about like the knee positioning in the bottom, making sure they are established halfway down, and then they stop there, and
Yeah.
they don't move as you come back up.
Yeah, it should be like the knees are anchored in space and the hips rotate around them in
Yep.
almost an arc, and then as it's arcing up, it will drive up independently and then the knees will come back. Once you kind of understand the system, it's very intuitive. I like these racks because you can still park your car in here. I hate these racks because of these bolts right here. I have a few guys with these, and then they can't put their safeties in any reasonable height
Oh yeah,
because like this is a high safety position for most
yeah.
normal human beings. So they'll have to just put it through one hole and then tilt it. And I'm like, well, if you drop 400 pounds on it, it'll probably be fine, but it's
Hmm.
not designed to take stress that way. So they'll be like tilted out because they have those bolts there. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so that's the one kind of shame about these racks that fold into the wall, is that you can't set your safeties very low. I think this is a safeties issue. Everything that Chase said was spot on. We'll check out the next video because he sent in two. I believe this one is slightly heavier.
I wonder how he benches then. If that's like, we'll see. He
My
doesn't
last
actually.
guy who is well, the most recent guy I have who got one of these, Robert, shout out. Where is he? He's in Hollywood right now, or LA, something like that. He got secondary safeties for bench, like
Mm,
freestanding safeties to use because he
gotcha.
just
Okay.
couldn't use them on the bench at all. This one seems slightly heavier. This is no safeties version.
Oh yeah, he's risking it.
He's risking it all.
The depth looks definitely better on the later reps.
Okay, let's try to pause on the last one. Oop, that was like one frame too high. We'll try and catch it again. Okay. That's
Yep.
the bottom of the last rep. What do you think?
Hmm. I like the depth there.
At depth, slightly below, slightly above.
I want to say I'm actually almost on the lower side, but again, I rather see this than the previous video of his
For
depth.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think he changed between this one and the last video then? What looks different?
Um, well, his stance looks maybe a little bit off. I would say maybe he modified his stance, or he's thinking about knees out a little bit. Hopefully he was kind of listening to us about the knee position here, because it looks like he's having more of an effort and more conscious thought of where it needs to be. It's like, play it again, Alex, because you'll kind of see like the later reps, um, he'll get his knee into the proper position, and he works on bending simultaneously
Hmm.
of the hips and knees there. You're like, that one looked a
That's where it
little bit more.
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was he went in the wrong direction and he fixed it for 5.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think homeboy here, he needs a very severe toe angle. I think he needs weightlifting shoes, needs to increase the toe angle. T Clopes, if you're listening to this
Hmm.
recommendations. Um, Anchor the knees. Once the knees are anchored, the rest of it rotates down and around them. So your knees
Yeah.
get in position, your butt just keeps sitting down. The knees will continue to let it go down. Um, but yeah, these are trending in the right direction. When we saw these a few weeks ago, if you guys remember, he was like 7-8 inches higher than his best rep here.
Oh yeah.
So we're
Oh yeah.
getting there, boys. We're getting there. Anything else for T Clopes, Chase?
Um, this is always kind of a hard part with understanding the knee position. Again, because they can literally move wherever the fuck you want to with the
Uh
knees.
huh.
What I like to think about is just aligning like the shoulders, knees, and toes cue, and then practice before you go underneath the bar, actually doing like a quarter squat, and you're establishing the knee position, the back angle, all that shit right before you actually do your work set.
Okay, so you're saying quarter squat. That's where the knees go, and then you just remember that position, and the
Exactly.
rest goes down around it.
Yep.
Spot on. I like it. Yeah, we'll end with that for today, everybody. Check out Chase's Instagram, comment or DM him to get him to post things. Stay tuned for movie reviews. If you want videos on the show, email him to support@strength.club. We have a few more to go through next time. That just kind of timed out well for this one. We have our quote from our fearless leader, Mark Ripito. You're thinking too hard about this. And all right, thanks guys. Have a nice night.